This is Future Readiness with Zara. If you're new here, subscribe, tell your friends, and tell your friends to tell your friends. And if you're a returning friend, welcome back. You'll be hearing our voice for the first time in 2023, and it feels like the year is almost running away from us. But you're in for a treat. I know you've heard me say this before, but it's because it's a consistent experience. The platform is always about bringing amazing human beings who are using their minds to create abundance in the world, but also to create a momentum that moves the human family forward. So today, I could hug her across the screen, but today we're speaking to the one and only Nkuli Mlangeni-Berg, because she also still has a hyphen, but to the world, she's probably just known as Nkuli. So dear to my heart. If I started speaking about her, there will be tears, and it never gets pretty when we are sniffling. So let me get her to just introduce herself. Welcome, you beautiful human being.
Thank you so much, sir. It's so cool to be here and to have this conversation. Finally.
I can't believe we've waited too many months and weeks, but we had a pandemic in between, right?
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I know who you are. If people ask
Yeah.
me who you were, I'd say the marvelous, amazing, the talented, the gifted, the funny, the kind, Nkuli. But how would you introduce yourself to the world? And please don't be shy, because I'm going to embellish the bits that you try and leave out.
Thank you so much for all those the nice things you're saying about me. I really appreciate it. My name is Nkuli, Nonkululeko, but as I said, known as Nkuli Mlangeni, and there's a Berg in the end. But actually, my husband took my surname. I don't have to use his surname, so he took my surname. So I'm actually Nonkululeko Mlangeni, and he is Simon Mlangeni-Berg. So, I'm originally from Kagiso in the west of Johannesburg, and I am currently living in Sweden. I've been here for the last 2 years. I would say I'm a creative entrepreneur, and I'm very passionate about Black culture, and I'm very passionate about heritage preservation, and I really appreciate design. And I work with those different mediums to try and, bring change, but to also bring awareness to some of the things that I'm passionate about. And currently, I have a platform called the Ninevites, which started off as I would say it was like just a passion project that I was doing on the side for a couple of years, and then turned into an actual business and has been running for several years. And I use that platform to do all the things that I love doing, and it's been so much fun.
This is ridiculous, but I remember reading about you. I think you had just won the Design Indaba Most Beautiful Object in South Africa.
Yes.
And I remember saying to my colleague Rooster, like, Rooster, we have to get hold of her. Like, I don't care how this happens, we're going to have to get hold of her. And we started some form of dialogue, but then we met in person at the
Yes.
art fair, right?
Yes. It was, the Cape Town Art Fair. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Do you
And
remember
then,
what that was like for
yeah,
you?
say that again.
Do you remember what that was like for you?
Which part? The design in our part?
Our meeting.
Oh yeah, because it was also, I think we had actually already made a meeting to meet in your office in Joburg, but
Yes.
then somehow we met before at the art fair, and it was really cool. It was like we had known each other for a very long time. And I also remember the actual meeting when I eventually came to your offices. We just talked for so long about everything and everything and anything, and it was just so great. And I think even though we have not been speaking as much in the last few years, this for me it feels like we are constantly in touch and in conversation, whether it's sharing something that I like on LinkedIn or on WhatsApp, or you seeing something that you think I'll be interested in. So yeah, I think it's been great friendship, and also just inspiring each other whenever possible.
I am addicted to kindness and creativity. So when I find the two in one person, I fall in
Yeah.
love. I'm like, I fall in love every day, like Gregory Porter. Like I just, I fall in love every day. But at the top of the conversation, you started describing yourself as a creative entrepreneur. What does that mean? Because other people have also tried to funkify it and call it a creativepreneur or something. But what does
Mm.
that mean for you? Because if you started Nanovites as a passion project that's become a business, also maybe you can just walk us through what that journey has been like for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, initially when I started, it was, I actually made fashion. I was, I think, at the time I had worked in like the South African media for many years, as a stylist, and but somehow still felt like, and this was many years ago before the cool young people came in. Back then
This
it
is
was
back in
like,
the day.
yeah, back in the day, back in the day. So I was, for me, it just felt like there was a lot of things that I didn't see where. And also, I think it was also just this. I was from Kagiso, and the visuals and images that I saw on a day-to-day basis, I thought there was like some really cool, beautiful things that I saw, in the township and people. And but I think that the magazines that were supposedly targeting our people and people from where I come from were completely detached from that. And the way, and when I started, I wanted to create clothes, but also just visuals that I could relate to and that the people back at home could relate to. And I actually just made the clothes just to take pictures of. I didn't really sell them. So it was so that's just kind of like how it started. And so I was a creative person, just doing what I loved and what I'm passionate about. And then I would say the entrepreneurship came in when I started realizing that this could be a platform that I use to also sustain myself and also create opportunities for other people, whether it's the photographers that I was working with or the seamstresses. So that's how then the entrepreneurship came in. And then I got to the opportunity to study at the Chaos Pilot School, which is a school for entrepreneurship and innovation and creative leadership in Denmark. I got a scholarship to go study there. And there, I think that's when my confidence of being an entrepreneur came. I feel like before I went into that school, I wasn't confident in myself in becoming an entrepreneur or actually selling my ideas or thinking that my ideas were even worth putting out there to the world. I was just like doing things for myself because it was fun to do. And so yeah, and I think that's where things kind of like started happening. And when I went into my final year project, I had a design question. I can't remember it properly now, but it was along the lines of how do I create social change using the things that I'm passionate about, which is travel, design, textiles. And that's kind of like how the journey started. And yeah,
Do you remember the first thing you sold and to whom?
sold.
Yes.
Um, I think the first thing that an idea that I ever sold, it was uh, I sold an editorial piece
Yeah.
to I think it was a woman called Izelle, and she was the I don't know, it was like chief editor of Media 24. And
Okay.
I had taken photos of really cool people at downtown Joburg with my friends. And then I just like called her and I was like, hey, like I have these pictures and I would really like to sell them to your publication. And I went and she was sold. And yeah, I would say like in terms of an idea, that's the
Yeah.
first thing that I've ever sold. Yeah.
That has been so. How do you then transition from styling to textiles? How does that journey happen? Because I mean, I have a rag from you that is so beautiful. Every time I walk on it, I feel like it should be hanging on my wall. But how was
Thanks
that? How was
for
that?
it. So for me, I think the textile bit is so. As I said, I really loved fashion, but I think if I also reflect on like just my childhood, when I was young, my grandmother owned a shebeen.
Yes.
And so that people coming in on Fridays, the young people, and I was a kid, and I would see these super stylish people, like for me, like I just remember like there would be. Do you remember my Pepe jeans?
Yes, yes.
And like Pepe jeans and like linen shirts, and people, for me in the township it was a lot of challenges, and this was in like the 80s, like early 90s. It was a lot of challenges, and there was a lot going on in the country, but in the township people were so cool and looking good all the time. And and that, I think, and the music, I think that's music and fashion for me is what was a big part of my, township growing up experience. And so I've always loved fashion, and I've always loved just fabric and just like linen and it's like, so um so I've always had that as a thing. But I think what happened was I also learned that there was a lot of destruction in the fashion world in the like in the last few years, where I actually watched a documentary, The True Cost of Fashion, where they were talking about how there's so much exploitation in the industry, how, bad chemicals being used, women working in factories and being, exploited and all of that. So that, I think, for me was when it shifted from it just being fashion, but to actually trying to understand the entire ecosystem and trying to understand the textile industry as a whole. And so I traveled to South America, and I wanted to also just understand how things were working there, because they're still very much connected with the indigenous ways of making textiles. So that was a great experience, and just kind of like
Where in South America?
I went to Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, and Bolivia. And yeah, and it was really incredible. And but also I think another, for me, motivation to go there was because I thought that it was interesting, this history and similar. I think like South America and Africa have very similar cultures, but there was no conversations happening between the two continents. But instead, it's always with the North, so and the West. And so I was really curious to see what was happening there, and if there could be, what could I learn, and what can we, start doing together. And so I actually ended up making textiles with artisans in South America, and we still work together, and I still have the relationship with them. So that's something that I feel is also a big thing about what I'm trying to do with the Ninevites, is these untold stories, and these connections that may not be obvious, I guess. So yeah.
But also, that's the joy of creativity, right? Because I often say that
Yeah.
creativity is not artistic ability.
Mm,
Creativity is this unique talent to connect what feels unconnectable, right? So for you,
yes,
it is,
exactly.
how might
Exactly.
we extract historical narratives from two different continents, and in the middle find something that's magical, that creates something that is textile and can be enjoyed and experienced in home. So that's a
Exactly.
fantastic thing. But also, I think for other creative people who are listening to this conversation, this idea that you somehow you have to create community in
Mm,
order to create. So we have to start thinking of our businesses as
mm.
systems, right? So I may be the person with the idea, but somebody else can be the person who translates that, right? So that
See,
could be the artisan or something like that.
actually, if in the last few months, I've kind of like been reflecting like on my work and what I've created so far. And I think a big realization and conclusion is that I really, really am not gifted when it comes to business,
Yes,
the business side.
yes.
And in fact, I actually think that in the last few months, I also had a realization that I actually might have a problem reading or challenge reading numbers. And and like whenever I've had to do like a spreadsheet, I literally just get paralyzed. And it's just, and it doesn't matter how many times someone can teach me, I really, really can't read numbers, and it really makes me so stressed. So, but also, as you're saying, the community part then comes in where I have that challenge. I'm really good at coming up with ideas and concepts, but I'm not necessarily the one who wants to finish them all the time. And so I have all the time a team of people that I work with that help me to make it possible. And so I would say, the Ninevites is I would that is at the core of the Ninevites. That's what it is. Like I'm just this person who has these ideas, but I need other people to help me interpret them and translate them into actual things. or
And that's so important because whether you are 32, 23 like you, or you are in your 50s like me, the self awareness is an
yeah,
important thing.
yeah,
And self realization comes from designing our lives to support our best selves. So there's no
exactly,
point in losing sleep trying to understand numbers when your
exactly,
magic lies in another place, right? So as a
exactly.
business person, don't exhaust yourself trying to be good with recruitment of people, being good with numbers, being good. Find your lane and then surround yourself with people who are better at the things that you are not good at.
And that is so liberating because if you can focus on what you are really good at, it's so great to just. I have an example. Like it was last year in October. I was working with a girl called Umbali Mtetwa. She's in Joburg, and she makes the most beautiful beads. And she works with these ladies in Pumalang.
Okay?
And I was like, oh, we came up with an idea. We wanted to do a craft retreat, and I'm in Sweden, she's in Joburg, and like coming up with these ideas, like, okay, we want to do this craft retreat. And yeah, and we put it together, and it was so good, and it was so successful. And like, being acknowledging that Mbali is an incredible writer, and I'm good with pictures and visuals, and I'm good with like finding sponsorship and like just bringing together our skills. It really came through, and the event was a success. And then we're like, okay, cool, I know Zamo, she's a yoga instructor, she's in Joburg, we can bring her in. And then and just also being able to share the space, I think, is important. Like, I think that will help, I think, creativity and just our industry go far if we're able to open up and like acknowledge and what we have and what other people have and how to bring that together.
That is so fantastic. And I'm excited because I'm also hearing the conversation around weaving women of substance to come together to create something amazing. Because we have an opportunity with each interaction to almost disavow the stereotype that women can work together. Like women can work together, short women can work together, yellow skinned women can work, whatever the nonsense.
Exactly. There's always these layers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wonderful to use our gifts in a deliberate way to say, I am going to be the person who does this my way. And not because you're trying to disprove anything, but because you're showing that there is another way of being richer in the world.
Exactly. No, and I mean, the Ninevites, I would say, is probably 80% women. I mostly just only work with women, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
It's really cool. I love it.
I love it. It's amazing. It's very good. I love it. So now we now read about you. You've done something with Trenery. You've done something. You then win
Yes.
a monocle award. This is the time for you to tell me how a girl from Kagiso ends up winning a monocle award. Like, talk to me about that.
I think I know this is cheesy, and you hear it a lot in the design space, but it is really just like, why am I doing this? It's and constantly reminding myself. I think that, for example, when I won the design in Daba, what it came with a lot of things and a lot of hype and a lot of, and one can get caught up in all of that. And I won't lie to you, it's been really challenging with this whole business thing, especially trying to figure out like what it is. And like we've done some ping ponging, we met, and you were helping me out with strategy and everything, and just kind of figuring out all of that has not been easy. And of course, like I never had like an investor, or I don't have like big money. I don't come from money. So it's been hard. There's been a lot of challenges, but I think every time I remember why I'm doing it, then all of it sounds doable and possible. I am because like as I do it for Black culture, I do it for Black people, I do it so that our stories are not being told by other people like they have for the many many centuries. And I just I do it to remind every other kid out there that you can. And it's not glamorous, it's not easy, but if I just remember that, then that helps me keep going. And I also think that me, I don't for me it's also, yeah, the hype of it all. I think that not doing it for so I feel that if that's what's been at least keeping me going, just constantly reminding myself why I'm doing it.
And it's a
um
wonderful thing to wake up with my North Star is my purpose, not the glory that comes with it, right?
with it, yes, yes,
We cannot take away from the fact that we live in a very visual world. We live in a
yes,
world where people tally, and
yes,
somehow your resume enters the room before you do.
yes,
So whilst you may be very clear that you wake up to do this for this place that's in your heart, there's also the other element that says that level of recognition we also can't underestimate. I mean, Monocle is a world recognized and respected brand. For them to choose you across 99,000 other million people who may have been in the consideration set is not a small thing, Nkuli. So I'm not going to let you move away from the question, how did that award happen?
um Zara. um I mean, it was, I had actually, how it happened is that they had interviewed me for, it was an article that they interviewed me for, and then I think through that the journalist was like, wow, this, the interview was great and she's cool, and and then she recommended me to the editor, and then I think that's how it came about. And since then it's been nice, because I think also you're one of those few people that I can talk to about, like Amel Leroux, Michelle Ndengechelo, or Monaco, for example, because it's not like a maybe mainstream publication. So it was cool, because also their values and what they represent, and how they, and the kind of brands that they associate themselves with. So I was really honored to be part of that. And I think it also helps you to just, in general, when you get that kind of acknowledgement, because one of the things that I struggle with is this balance between being humble and being acknowledging my achievements, just like where you're like, yeah, thanks, but where you don't fully say, yeah, like I,
I
you
did
know,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I did that.
it's that kind of thing for me, where I'm really grateful, and it's cool to be known like also on it, because that's the other thing, it's like being known on an international platform. And I think that in the last few months that's just been happening here in Sweden. Since you said I must plug things in,
I want to know
I
what
actually
you I know you did
have
that
a very
exhibition.
big, I would say, according to Swedish standards, a very big collaboration coming up with a very big Swedish brand. So I think in the last few months also it's been cool to get the recognition from the international space as well. And I think Monaco is one of those things, and where you feel like things are opening up, because you can imagine coming from South Africa to Sweden, this like design, Scandinavian design, minimalist, da da da, da that's very intimidating. So when they open their doors and say, "Hey, you're welcome," it feels nice.
Oh, fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. I wanted to talk to you, just to ask you about your experience. What is there a tangible difference between designing in Africa and designing out of Africa? I mean, like you're sitting in the like almost the most polar opposite of what color, loud noise is, right? Coming from this place that is just colorful and loud and large in all these other beautiful ways. What was the shift like for you?
Um, I think it's still something that I'm not battling, but like trying to figure out on a day to day. I think designing in Africa is so raw. It's so it's about making the best of what you have. It's it's so much about it's what you find, and it's so, whereas I feel like, of course, the difference for me in Sweden is that there's so many more resources and support, uh, you know, financially or in other ways. So it's not, you don't have, I think that young people in the continent who are designers are doing such cool work, and it's like from nothing and just like putting things together and like making it happen, and it's exciting. And I think, and I feel that in terms of the aesthetic itself, one of the thing that hit me, I think, when I first arrived, is the fact that here in Sweden there's so much about nature. There's a lot of referencing nature, because Sweden is it's a country with like a lot of forest and nature, and everybody loves nature. Whereas when I was back at home, like for me, like my motivation was always about, so it's like was always about like trying to fix something. It was like, okay, there's like big unemployment, and I need to create something that I can then work with these artisans or these ladies, and then they can weave, and then we can create an employment. And or it's always about trying to solve some social injustice, basically. And that's always been like my starting point. It's like, oh, I feel that our stories are not being told, and so I need to start there. But like, yeah, I feel that, like, one of the things that I'm working a lot within the photography space as well, like I'm working on a photography school here, where it's like the young people are creating still life photography, where you just like have an object and you're taking photos. And then when you look at like photography from the continent, it's very much documentary photography. So it's those things where it's like I think back at home, it's so much about like fixing things. It's about working with social issues. It's about like it's these trying to create these kind of like big solutions. And I think people here maybe are privileged enough to just be like, oh, I just want to take a beautiful picture just for the fun of it, or I'm gonna look into nature and connect with so I would say that was one of the things that stood out for me, the difference in what people are inspired by
Yeah.
and the resources that they have in comparison to back at home in the continent.
You see, when I said to you we're going to speak for an hour, you're like, Zara, what are we going to talk about for an hour? Look, it's almost up. But you're like, I told you, you and I can speak for days. But see, I'm not going to let you go now. I am going to let you go after two more questions. But the first one I wanted to talk to, just reflect with you on is what, if I'm a young person and I'm a designer, I've heard you talk about the joy of understanding my craft. I've also heard you talk about the magic of working in community, right? I've heard you talk about some of the challenges that may come with transitioning a passion into a business. I'm
Hmm.
interested in if I'm a young person who maybe doesn't have access to education, but I
Hmm.
know that I'm gifted at some form of creative expression. What might be your encouragement? Because let's imagine I'm 26, I'm black, I'm female. You know the
Hmm.
issues we have in our country. Just being black and female and surviving every day is in itself success. So I'm
Hmm.
26, I'm female, I'm black, I live in Mabetla extension. I think I have this talent. What are the three things you can offer me to just keep me encouraged? Because everything around me says I'm part of a lost generation. Unemployment stats are sitting at 33% for young people. We have a government that steals our future. What might you offer me? Like, what can you offer me as encouragement?
I think, I mean, when I think of myself, I, I, I'm such a dreamer. I'm a dreamer, and that is major. I think like I would not be here if I wasn't such a dreamer. So I would say the first thing is like keep dreaming. Don't lose that. That is I remember when I was young, like if they sent me to the stores and I was just like walking past all these beautiful houses, they look shit, and I was just like, I know to stop and just watch. So I think dream, keep dreaming, and don't ever lose that part of that of yourself, because it's yeah, I think that's, it helps to spark the fire. I think also the other thing that I also in the last few years have realized that I do a lot, and has been something maybe like I didn't think about it when I was doing, but now I see how it's all coming together, is the fact that I'm always just doing. So, it starts from when I was young, like I would organize, I don't know, beauty contests, with my friends, or I would, even the thing that I told you about, the idea that I sold to Media 24, it was like, oh, I have a few dresses here. I have two pretty friends, and my friend can take photos. Let's go make photos and then take those photos. So just do, keep doing, like like you said, the community thing, like if like Elokshin, there's a graphic designer guy somewhere, your neighbor, there's somebody there, just think about who you can access, who has whatever resources. Does not have to be big, but just do, because that helps to build your portfolio. Like that's how I built my portfolio, just like taking pictures here. Like for example, this craft retreat that I just made, I didn't make a cent out of it, but it was good to do it and then take photos, and now I have it in my portfolio, and then I can take that to a brand and be like, hey, look at this beautiful craft retreat we put together, do you want to sponsor our next one? So just do. That is I feel that that's something that and don't do with the maybe an expectation all the time, like sometimes you just kind of have to make something,
Just make it in
and
service to your
for
craft.
yourself. Yes, for yourself. And then when you take it out there, then people will acknowledge and they'll see. Because I think if you're going somewhere and you're looking for an opportunity, no one's going to give you an opportunity if they don't have anything to reference. They need to see something, and it does not have to be perfect. I'm also the person who has written really random emails to people
Yeah,
asking for things.
yeah.
And like I'll just be like, oh my gosh, did I do that? But putting yourself out there is not fun or easy. I feel this so much when I'm like, when I expose myself, when I'm like asking, hey, can I get a sponsorship for that? Da, 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 and then they come back and I get rejected. But it's just like, oh, it's not easy to feel that rejection. But it's practice. and it's something that one needs to do to be able, because people want to see that you've done things, and with the thing that you mentioned in South Africa right now, with all the challenges that the country is facing, where you need a job but you still need a experience for 3 years, and you need this, and you don't just enter the job. It's like, where am I going to find experience? I just finished my studies. And so I feel that building your own portfolio is a good thing, and it's a good start, I think.
That is so rich. So here's my last question. What, in your view, is the future of design? What, in your view, is the future, even of just the creative economy? Because if you think about it, there isn't, out of the 54 countries on the continent, there isn't a single ministry of creative economy. Yet, you and I know that the creative economy is such a contributor to the growth of many nations, yet it's not specified, right? So what do you think, if you look into your crystal ball, what do you think is the future of just the creative economy or design as a practice in the creative economy?
I think one of the things that I feel like it's like going back to basics, to humanity, to like, I guess it is that thing of like how I don't think it lies in the big corporate people. I feel that it's on the ground. It's remembering or reconnecting with who we are. Like, from, I don't know. For me, when I think about it, I see like caring for each other, and and an example of that is caring of each other means, if I'm going to a creative person and asking them to do work for me, I should at least acknowledge that they need to be compensated for their, it doesn't matter how little or big it is what they are doing. It's caring, it's remembering, it's respecting, it's just going back to those kind of basics for me, and respecting the environment, respecting ourselves and our community, and making also from a place of respect, and creating again from a place of respect. So I think for me, that's how I see it. And I think it's not so much about like, oh, I'm making cutting edge things and incredible ideas and da, 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 da. It's just like remembering that the ladies that I work with who are in Prince Albert weaving my rugs need to be paid for their time, and they need to also live and survive and sustain themselves. And if I'm going to be buying a beaded necklace, I should not try and hustle the lady because, oh, I don't respect what they are doing because it's not like some big grand design that's at Centon. So that is, for me, I feel like it's there. It's just those basics, I think.
That is such an incredible thing, because so many times when we speak about the future, people think it always has to be something tech advanced, and it's cutting edge, and it's all of this. And I'm hearing you say, if we were just to sit at the edge of a stream and listen and go back to that one thing, which is about honor for ourselves, honor for one another, honor for the planet. Because when we start with honor, then we are honorable with one another, and therefore we're honorable.
Exactly. So I think, yeah, and like, I'm very conscious of the fact that where I am right now and where I come from, like, things are so challenging back at home, and every day I think about all of that, and I feel there's so much that to me feels broken. Um, and we need to go back to, yeah, like that, being on, being mindful, being respectful, being to fix it. I don't think that fixing it is going to be Instagram or any of it, nothing like that. It needs to be, like just going back to that kind of stuff. So yeah, and yeah, I think about it a lot, and I also think about it as my role also as a creative, as a designer. I was traveling around South Africa in December, meeting incredible people who are doing great work, and a lot of them are not in the mainstream. They are in like Makanda. In the middle of Makanda, there's an amazing guy, Olile, who's opened a space called the Black Power Station.
I'm going to find Nkuli. I am getting into my track. I'm going to find Nkuli.
He was so inspiring. He was just doing it, but also being so mindful and of the role and position that he's taken in his community. So yeah, and in the Eastern Cape and in KZN, and there's so many beautiful things happening. And it's people who are really just saying, okay, we're just going to just reconnect and with our people, with our country, with our environment, with nature, and just start from scratch to find solutions. So it was really inspiring and empowering.
We are going to find them. We are going to find them. And when I get there, I'm going to take a picture and send it to you. I'm like, this one.
Please, it's so cool. It's such a cool space. It's a cool space. It's a When you enter the space, you don't have to pay a cover charge. You have to pay with a book or something. You donate a book, and
That is
it's
awesome.
just books everywhere. It's inspiring.
I am headed to find Nkuli. I really am. So
Great.
before I let you go, just let me know what else is coming up for you this year. What are the big
Wow.
things you're excited about, or the big small things you're excited about?
Wow. So I'm actually working on a currently we're producing or working as a co-curator for a Afro-Nordic festival, which it will be a big festival in Stockholm that will be showing work by Black artists and designers who are living and practicing in Nordic countries, so like Iceland, Denmark, Norway, all the Black amazing artists and creatives.
Thank you. I'm waiting for my invite. Yes.
Yeah, so that's happening. And I have this collaboration that's happening with the Swedish brand, Inshallah.
Okay.
It's been
Fingers
an
crossed.
interesting process to get there. And that's launching in September. Um, and I'm like slowly working on an invite new collection. But I'm also I've been working with this amazing woman, Umam Alina Ndebele. She, I would say, is probably one of the first Black textile artists. She's in her 80s now. She lives in the middle of Swart Mfolozi, in a very, very beautiful rural place. She actually was one of the Ikamanga recipients. She's amazing. She weaves from her. She weaves. She doesn't weave anymore, but she used to weave all the folk tales that her grandmother told her onto textiles, and they're beautiful. So I'm working with her, and we are trying to make a book of her work, and to have these folk tales out there, because it's also like, again, preservation of our heritage. And it's stories that I don't know, that my mother didn't tell me because she was busy working. So so hopefully we'll have a book with these beautiful folk tales and her tapestries. So that's one project that I'm currently working, but there's like a lot of like random little cute things happening in between as well, and being a mother, all of that stuff.
But also you're living true to the counsel you gave up front, right? Which is this idea of wake up every day and create something. And you're creating it not to sell, you're creating it in
Yeah.
service to your craft. So I really
Yes,
value that.
exactly.
I was saying to Vera that this year I'm so very clear about the, what did I call it, the MMC. That for me, it's about meditating because it's an important practice that grounds me. And then it's about movement. So physicality is also very important because it feeds my and it fuels my creativity. And then it's about creating. So these are the
Yeah,
things that I have to be able to do every day.
yeah, exactly.
Because then in that way, you keep your gaze turned towards the sun. The back of the moon is a very dense and dark place, and this is what our country can feel like on an everyday basis. But if you turn your face towards the sun, you may very well come across your own version of Nkuli and
Mm,
Nkuli's own version of Zara,
mm,
and
mm,
you make magic together. But this has been
mm.
so fun. I so wish we could continue talking
Thank
more.
you so much. Thank you so much, Zai. I really, really appreciate it. And I think that yeah, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and I'm grateful for so many things. And I mean, like, I would love to um, actually work more with young people back at home, and it's something that I'm thinking, dreaming about on a daily basis. And I think what you're saying now also, like the intention and having an intention of how you want to live your life. I think that, unfortunately, so many of us are not privileged enough to even have the space and time to even think about that kind of stuff. And, I think so much about the healing that needs to happen in our country. We need to work on that, and it's something that we need to be intentional about, like, and when I said broken, I think there's, maybe that's a little bit extreme, but I feel so strongly that we have to create space for healing.
No, it is very true. We are the water
And
so good.
and that will, and then maybe it's also something that we as designers, maybe that is also the future of design in the countries, like how do we create a space for healing, through our work, and because that is so needed. So hopefully, the next time we talk, we'll be brainstorming ideas about that.
Fantastic. And I'm
Thank you.
happy. No, no, no. Thank you. But also, I'm really happy to just sign off on a note that says creativity is a tool for creating not just products and services, but also for creating the
Yes,
balm that our
yes,
soul so desperately needs. So
yes.
I salute you. May harm avoid
Thank
you,
you.
my angel. From now on, Full Circle will be called Future Readiness with Zar, and we'll still have those thought expanding conversations and the streams of encouragement that you enjoy. If you're already subscribed to Full Circle with Zar, you are automatically subscribed to Future Readiness with Zar, and you can continue to listen to all the conversations on the podcast platform of your choice. But also let me know if there are any specific topics or guests you would like us to host. Enjoy, like, and share. And until the very next time, I wish you clarity and courage.